Okay, so really the first thing I want to ask you about is what have the implications of redlining been on the United States?
So I think that a lot of our current patterns of segregated housing are can be traced to federal housing policies and mortgage policies going back to the 1930s to 50s.
Mhm.
And that was a time when eligibility for mortgages was based on maps that were drawn that color coded neighborhoods based on how many African American houses, how many African American families were living in different areas.
Mhm.
And if there were blacks living in a neighborhood, or even if there was the likelihood of blacks living into a neighborhood, those neighborhoods were drawn in red,
Mhm.
and you couldn't get mortgages underwritten, or homeowners could not apply for mortgages at affordable terms if they lived in those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So what you saw happening was that um, blacks were really left in neighborhoods that were of inferior housing quality
Mhm.
and became highly segregated because those were the only areas where blacks could live. And as Americans moved out to the suburbs in the 1940s and 1950s and 1960s, and built up and owned homes and built up home equity, those opportunities were denied to African Americans.
Mhm.
So you had whites gain access to all kinds of opportunities to become homeowners and to see
Mhm.
the values of their home increase, and blacks got relegated to segregated, overcrowded housing that just perpetuated a cycle of poverty.
Mhm. So, I know you kind of talked about house values. In the status quo of today, is, house values still affected from those redlining criterias? Is that,
Yeah. So you know um, those who were able to buy in the suburbs, particularly white homeowners, saw their home values grow. They saw equity build and accumulate over generations. Those got passed down to their children and grandchildren, and so a lot of the disparities that you see now in the racial wealth gap, which
Mhm.
is widely recognized and documented, can be traced quite directly to the federal housing policies, including redlining of the 1930s and 40s.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how much you've been able to dig into this, but there's a growing body of literature that has documented this pretty clearly. So Richard Rothstein's *The Color of Law* is
Mhm.
probably the seminal book that came out 4 or 5 years ago. And then Ta-Nehisi Coates in *The Case for Reparations*. That's another piece that a lot of people have read or have referred to. So